And if you've been thinking of starting a small homestead but wasn't really sure where to start, well, then this video is for you. In today's video, I'm going to take you around and show you what we grow in raised beds. I'll also show you what you can grow in fabric bags as well as pots. And if you have no space, then I'll show you how you can use hanging baskets as well. So stick around. If you've ever thought, I'd love to grow food, but I just don't have the space, I want you to pause for a moment, because today I want to show you that food gardening is not about how much land you have. It's about how you can use the space that you're in. Whether you live in an apartment, a small townhouse, a home with only a small patio or balcony, there's always a way to grow something. If it's in a single pot, a hanging basket, fabric grow bags, or vertical wall, food doesn't require acres, it requires intention. Even if you just start small with the easiest crops to grow, like your staple food, it will be like your spinach, your kale, your tomatoes, basil, even potatoes are quite easy to grow. And just having a few on hand will actually save you a lot when you go and buy them in the grocery shop. So I've got this grow bag here, and I've just stuck some spinach in here along with some potatoes that I think had just popped up. So I'm quite curious to see what potatoes are here, but it was purely meant for spinach. So it's pretty much a bonus. And this is all in a nice grow bag like this. If you get a few of these grow bags and line them against your garden wall, your balcony, or even your patio, you can have a few of them. Some with spinach, some with tomato, some with herbs like basil and thyme and oregano. One of the most beautiful rewards of growing a small food garden is discovering just how much life can grow in such little space. You don't need rows and rows of raised beds like I do to harvest fresh food. You can grow herbs in a window box, cherry tomatoes in a 5-gallon container, lettuce in a shallow bowl, strawberries in hanging baskets. When you grow vertically, upwards instead of outwards, you multiply your growing space. You can trellis cucumbers, pole beans climbing a fence, peas trained up a twine, and vining tomatoes reaching for the sun. All of these plants are perfectly happy growing skywards. And what happens when you realize this? You stop seeing limitations and you start seeing opportunities. It is so rewarding to be able to come outside to your garden and end up harvesting things you've grown from seed. So it doesn't matter how small your garden is, or if you've just got a patio or a balcony. I really do recommend that you try a little food forest, because it is the most rewarding thing that I have ever done in my life. One of the greatest rewards of growing even a small food garden is definitely the taste. There's nothing quite like harvesting something minutes before you eat it. Lettuce still cool from the morning air, basil warm from the sun, tomatoes so ripe that practically fall into your hands. And when you grow food at home, even in containers, the flavor is richer and more vibrant because you're harvesting at peak ripeness, not weeks earlier for transport and storage. That single cherry tomato you grow in a pot will often taste better than the entire store-bought carton. And that to me is a powerful reminder that quality matters more than quantity. Guys, to start somewhere, I can't actually explain how rewarding it is to have a food garden where you can just come out, harvest some food. And even though I'm not self-sufficient in just growing food and being able to live off my land, I can actually just grow things like tomatoes, which we don't buy from the shops, and cucumbers, lettuce, kale. And not only do my family love it and friends and that, but the animals love the kale and the lettuce and the spinach that I grow here. So it's a win-win situation, and it's really, really a beautiful feeling when you can harvest the things that you've grown and also benefit from it by eating or sharing it with family, friends, and even your animals. So we're going to do a quick harvest because I see that there is some tomatoes and some beans and peas that need to get harvested. Over here we've got the very first cherry tomatoes, and it looks like these cherry tomatoes are cherry tomatoes that I think it's called the golden cherry tomatoes. It's red cherry tomatoes with a little bit of orange streaks, and that is actually awesome. So I'm going to harvest these before the birds get to it. And I see a whole bunch of flowers and that on some other plants here. So there's some flowers there, and the tomatoes are actually doing absolutely amazing. We also got some Roma tomatoes, and they sizing up very nicely. So we'll quickly just do a harvest on that, and then maybe some peas and beans. Another reward of a small space gardening is confidence. When you grow one thing successfully, just one, something shifts inside of you. You think, I grew this, I kept this alive, and I can do this. That confidence grows just like your plants do. You start with a pot of herbs, then you add tomato plants, then maybe peppers and greens or strawberries. Small wins build momentum, and because small gardens are manageable, you're more likely to succeed. There's less overwhelm, less maintenance, and a fewer mistakes, which makes small space gardening the perfect place to start. Gardening in small spaces offers deep mental and emotional rewards. It slows you down. It gives your hands something meaningful to do. It reduces stress and anxiety. There's something incredible calming about tending to plants, just even a few. In a world that moves fast, a small garden reminds you that growth takes time, and that is just perfectly okay. So we also got some fabric bags here that I've been using to do the sweet potatoes. These sweet potatoes are looking absolutely amazing, and these are potato cuttings that I was actually gifted by a lady on social media. Her name is Simone, and I actually grew her sweet potatoes last year. I didn't actually document harvesting and eating them, but I was able to actually save some of the sweet potatoes and grow slips on them, and then make new pots, and hopefully we have some more beautiful sweet potatoes here. And this is something I will definitely document to see how our harvest is this season, especially with all the rain. But this is a awesome idea to just use things like this to grow your sweet potatoes. Over here we've got pots that I grow a lot of things in. You can see here I've got a pomelo that I actually grew from seed. And I got another pomelo somewhere else. Where is it? I'm not sure where, but oh, there it is. A nice pomelo on that side. Then I got a fig tree also in a pot, and some peppers, and I think this is the finger limes. So you can grow a lot of things in pots. I've got rosemary in pots, and it's just really an awesome way to grow, because if you don't have soil and you're just in a balcony area or even in an area where there is no grass, you can just lay a whole bunch of pots on the ground. We put all our strawberries in long pots like this, And we even put our green peppers in pots, and you can see how beautiful these green peppers are looking. Quickly turn them around. They're starting to look amazing. So what if you don't have the space in your back garden to put these raised beds? Well, don't worry. My friend Ali from Next Chapter Homestead has a small garden as well, but instead of using raised beds, she uses a different method. So let's go across to Ali and she will explain exactly how she grows in her back garden.
Thanks, Sam. Come on in, guys. Let me show you what we have going on in our backyard. So this is my garden, guys. I am a small space urban homesteader, a backyard homesteader, if you will. And because of the space I have available to me and my limitations, it essentially gave me the opportunity to become a container gardener. I grow in a very small space, and as you can see, majority of it is concreted. So we had to come up with a creative way to grow our own produce. Like most of you, I actually grow in a small space, and it's definitely presented me with a few challenges of its own. In our yard, I would say at least 50% of our growing space is actually paved or concreted in some way, shape or form. So we have bricks in one area, we have gravel in another, and we have concrete here. And we've had to use the space we've got wisely to grow things. So for me, the easiest way to do that was to grow in containers. Because we're gardening in a small space and we are predominantly making use of containers for growing, we've also had to be a little bit more creative about our approach to gardening and what we're actually growing in. By growing in containers, I've been able to grow a diverse range of things, but it's also allowed me the freedom to try new things. As you can see, I have many containers in my garden. Let me show you what I've got going on and why I grow these things. As a small space gardener, I've tried to make the best use of the space that I have, and for me that comes in layers. So I tend to subdivide my garden into layers and say, right, we have a top, a middle and a bottom layer. How can we best use that space? Because in our small environment, we are unable to grow out, but we definitely can grow up. By dividing our garden into these layers, it allows me to look at unique ways that I could potentially use my space to grow more. And for me, wall hangers are a fantastic option because they're up off the ground, they're not taking up any space from below, and I can use them to grow maybe one or two smaller items in their containers. But I'll show you some other methods that I use shortly. Hanging baskets allow me to make use of the space that otherwise would be wasted in our garden. And it allows me to grow not only pretty things, but some edible things as well. This basket over here is actually a basket of strawberries, and it's set runners. For me, I grow my strawberries in hanging baskets because I do like the visual appeal of it. The strawberries tend to fall down over the rim, so they're not on the soil, and it prevents a lot of rot on your strawberries. And also because they're hanging off of the basket, they are exposed to sun, so they ripen beautifully, and because they're off the ground, they're not exposed to the same predators. Which means, apart from the birds, we do actually get to enjoy a few of our strawberries. By growing my strawberries in the hanging basket, it allows me the ability to use space that otherwise wouldn't have been used. Strawberries are not the only thing we grow in our containers. We also grow herbs and a few really pretty flowers. As you can see here, I am using a wall again that we have put these basket mounts on, and we've used the hanging baskets to grow something pretty, not only for the pollinators, but for us too, and these flowers are edible. Behind me, these pots are reserved for lettuce. It keeps them up off the ground, the chickens can't get to them, and they get enough sunlight, and they do particularly well in a small container. We then move on to our middle layer of the garden, and that would essentially be what can we monopolize to grow our crops as tall as we possibly can. And for me, that comes in a lot of different forms. We have arches that we have built, and we have plastic mesh that we've strung to encourage plants to grow up. As a small space gardener, I have to make the best use of the space that I've got, and for me that sometimes looks like vertical gardening. In this section of my garden over here, I have trained some beans up some string so that they would eventually connect to the fence on my chicken run, where I am encouraging them to grow up and over so that I can get a greater yield of beans by not necessarily taking up too much of my ground space. This variety is a vita bean and it is a runner bean. They are phenomenal for growing in pots, in ground, and they are great creepers. So if you can grow vertically, either by stringing them or along a trellis, or even maybe growing them along the arch, they are a great producer. They tend to grow clusters of beans and you can come along and pick them, and the more you pick, the more they grow. Sometimes we use our own hybridized growing methods, and we take a little bit of everything and we put it together in order to get the results that we need in our garden. And this cucumber is the perfect example of that. The cucumber is actually planted in this container down here, which also has oregano and some spring onions growing in it. While our cucumber was still a small plant, we put in a bamboo stake. We trained the cucumber up the bamboo stake until it reached the arch. And once it made it to the arch, we trained it to grow up and over. And it's been fairly successful. We've had a couple of harvests of cucumber this year, and we're already on our harvest of beans, which we also have growing up this arch. The bottom layer is then made up of your growing medium, the place where you plan to grow, whether that be your raised bed, your containers, or your in-ground bed. For us, it's containers. So our containers actually come in a variety of different shapes and sizes as well as colors, but that is my personal aesthetic. Remember, you can always go for something more tailored to your unique taste. So while I'm limited to growing in containers in certain areas within the garden, I'm not limited to what containers I can actually use. So over here, I have my first official raised garden bed. It's actually an old wheelbarrow that I use to grow things in. So this wheelbarrow currently is loaded with strawberry plants and some garlic chives. In our container garden, we've also successfully grown tomatoes. One of our favorite varieties of tomato to grow is the blue cream cherry tomato. They're deliciously sweet and they have a large yield for a smallish plant. Hey guys, I hope that you enjoyed hanging out with me in my garden today, and I really do appreciate you stopping in to see what we do with containers in our garden and how we grow in our small space.
Thanks, Ali. And guys, it is that easy. Go across to Ali's page and take a look at how she actually implements using pots and hanging baskets to grow in her back garden. This is the most important reward of all. No matter where you live, no matter how much space you have, no matter your experience level, there's always a way to grow something. A windowsill herb, a single container tomato, a hanging basket with strawberries. And once you start, you realize you were never lacking the space. You were just waiting for permission. So, if you're listening to this and you're wondering whether it's worth starting small, let me say this clearly. Small gardens matter, small harvests matter, and small beginnings matter. Because every garden, no matter the size, feeds more than just the body. It feeds confidence, it feeds peace, and it feeds possibility. And once you experience that, you'll never look at a small space the same way again. So go start your small little food garden today. It is absolutely rewarding. And pop around to Next Chapter Homestead. That is Ali's channel. And take a look at this next video. I'm sure you enjoy it and I'll meet you there.